In conversation with Laila Eshan. Laila Eshan is an author, model, and artist whose powerful memoir, I Want Freedom, shares her extraordinary journey from war-torn Afghanistan to Germany and the United States. Through her story, she shed light on the struggle of forced arranged marriages, the fight for independence, and resilience required to rebuild one's life against all odds. In I Want Freedom, Lila courageously recounts her personal experiences of oppression, escape, and ultimate triumph. A book is not just a testament of our strength, but also a beacon of hope for women and girls worldwide facing similar challenges. By sharing her story, she aims to raise awareness, inspire change, and empower others to take control of their own destinies. Beyond her writing, Laila continues to use a platform to advocate for women's rights, sharing a message through public speaking, modeling, and various artistic endeavors. Her work is a call to action for a world where every woman has the right to choose her own path. And on today's episode of Photo Interview, it's my utmost pleasure, joy, and excitement to have on the show today, Laila Eshan. Welcome on the show, Laila.
Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you
Yeah,
for having me.
absolutely. I need to say I was excited and taken aback while I read through some of your works, and I'm very much looking forward to this conversation. And I was like, I can't wait to jump on it because I remember having a similar conversation in the past, but that was with a narcissistic relationship. So it's great to have you on here. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm
Yeah,
on in your
ab-
show.
absolutely. Thank you. So, Lila, I need to first say that I was taken aback by the description page of your book, I Want Freedom, My Journey to Freedom on Amazon. And I would like to start this conversation by asking the main obvious question authors get asked. What inspired you to write this book?
My own journey, Peter. Um, I was 16 years old when I came home from school one day unexpectedly doing finals. And I found my future husband and father-in-law sitting smiling at me. Within 10 days, I was married off and sent over to the United States from Germany. I knew what was happening to me was wrong. I was devastated. I really had no saying. I had no choice, no voice. I had dreams as a 16-year-old, many dreams, goals, and a very driven young girl. But I knew I was being robbed from all my dreams and all of my goals. Knowing that was happening to me was extremely wrong. But I also know that this was part of a culture and, you know, tradition. So I tried to make it work and respecting the tradition and the culture. But unfortunately, it just was a nightmare. It was a living hell, unwanted life. So this is a very subject topic for me to speak about, only
Yeah.
because it takes me back in those times. And so I made a commitment to myself, experiencing so many other stories around me that were experiencing similar um, experiences in their unwanted marriage. So I told myself that I'm going to get my freedom at some point
Mm,
if my life continues to remain the same.
mm,
And I'm going to be a voice for everybody. I was very driven, aggressive, and a rebellious young girl. And I, knowing that was happening to me, being wrong, and among everybody else around me, including my sisters, I just promised that whenever I have the freedom, I'll definitely raise my voice and bring an awareness to the world that what is happening to me and to million girls around the world,
mm.
it is not fair. So really, that's what inspired me to share my story, my memoir worldwide, to let people know. You know, we talked about, oh, she's an arranged marriage, to someone, whether successful or maybe a close relatives to the family and whatnot. But they never really question you after fact, like, what is your experience like? How is it? How are you doing? There's no question asked. Had I ever been asked about that, I probably would have opened up and said something about it, but I couldn't. I had to stay silent. So those life experiences and everybody around me inspired me to bring in awareness and raise my voice about this forced arranged marriages, knowing that it's just not fair. So that's really what inspired me.
Thank you so much for sharing that, really. I know this is quite personal, but when people come on my show to talk about real life stories, it's always amazing to me. And I try my best sometimes not to force word out of their mouth, yeah. But I cannot just hold myself to how heavy some conversation can get to. I remember speaking with somebody who had narcissistic relationship. She married a terrible husband, rather. I remember speaking to a woman who did not have child. I mean, her journey being a childless woman, very emotional. I remember speaking with somebody who had HIV/AIDS and he struggled with it, etc. So many stories like this. I remember when I was setting your question together with my assistant Kenny, one of the questions that came to my mind was like, arranged marriages, did that still happen? 21st century? I was like, oh, okay, I'm looking forward to this because it sounds to be quite interesting, really. And I would like to have much conversation around it. One of the things that
Mm.
stuck with me the most is number one, how does it happen? I remember you mentioned in your response to my question, which I took note in here, that you were 16 years old. And before you know it, because number one, you mentioned tradition. If that's a tradition, you're trying to respect the tradition, which I think would love to talk about. Yeah. Then you mentioned being moved to the United States from Germany. Yeah. At that very young age. That's quite a lot. I'm sure that must have affected perhaps your mental health, your friendship with other people, your relationship, and more importantly, who exactly were you like the person you're getting arranged with? I'm not sure if you've known the person before in the past or it's an entirely new person. That whole scenario is very unclear to me, and I'd like you to shed some more light in it without giving spoilers.
Yes. So I want freedom, like you mentioned. It is personal, in a powerful memoir about my resilience, courage, and the pursuit of independence. This is, as I mentioned, tradition and culture. It just goes on centuries and centuries that it's been practiced among young girls. And it's just not really forced arranged marriage. There's so many other things that people
Yeah,
still they implement. But this is one subject that um, it interferes with young girls' future, and it prevents them from living their goals and their dreams.
mm,
So it's a book that takes you or takes the readers to a journey from war-torn Afghanistan, as you mentioned, to Germany and then United States, navigating the cultural expectations at
yeah,
forced marriage. It was a struggle to reclaim my identity and explores themes of survival at its core. It's a story that of hope, showing that no matter how difficult the
mm,
circumstances can be, there's always a path to freedom and self-discovery. Readers
mm,
can expect an emotional, eye-opening, and ultimately an inspiring experience.
mm,
Some, I'm a well traveler, so when I travel and I happen to sit next to someone that I'm sharing 16, 18 hours of my time with, you end up comparing notes.
mm,
And they're like, oh my God, I heard about that. What is it like? And oh my God, I've never heard about this.
mm,
This is before I, wrote my book. It's like, I want more of your story. Can you please put it in writing? And so it's just some are aware of the actual story, but they really don't know the depth of it. And me being so personal and so open and so intimate with my story
yeah,
is that I really wanted readers to sort of get into my shoes and experience of what it's like. And then hopefully that would help this cause for
Mm.
us to just get some sort of a recognition and help us to bring in awareness.
Wow, that's quite an heavy one, really. Very amazing, quite heavy, and I can understand. That's why I would love to move into my next question. Yeah, I wanted to
Yes.
ask you because I know writing a memoir could pose some challenges, especially during the writing period and the final stage. I want to ask you, how were you able to cope with the emotions associated with writing this book, and how long does it take you to finish the book finally?
So it's extremely hard to be in an unwanted marriage that it turns out to be extremely physical, emotional.
Mm,
I mean, overall, extremely abusive marriage day in and day out. It's just really, you feel stuck. You
mm,
just don't really know a way out. And at times, it's just life, sort of that type of experience of
mm,
life feels so heavy and so overwhelming that you feel trapped. You just don't know how to get out. And it's just it's a cycle of living that abusive relationship every single day.
mm.
You find a little bit of like hope by telling yourself
Yeah.
tomorrow will be a better day. I
Mm,
can make tomorrow be a better day by staying positive. And feeling trapped in that under that cycle of control and oppression every single day was extremely a battle between the duties and the deep yearning of freedom. My
mm,
story, I Want Freedom, is about breaking those chains, finding the strength, and reclaiming my life. So, proving that no one should have to live without the right to choose their own destiny. Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot your second question.
yeah, I understand. Yeah, how are you able to cope with the emotions associated with writing the book?
Oh my gosh, that was probably one of the most painful experience of my life.
Mm,
Revisiting every painful memories, especially those that caused trauma and loss, was
mm.
extremely difficult.
Oh,
And there were moments where I had to just step away from it, just to go outside and take a deep breath, calm
yeah.
myself down, wipe off those tears,
Mm,
say, you know what? I was just at times was so emotional that I was really ready to give up.
yeah.
I, I just can't do this. I would be sobbing to my family, and I'm like, this is just so hard. I don't really know if I'm going to be able to finish this because it's extremely painful. But what really kept me going was, why am I doing this? What is the purpose behind this? And I had to keep on reminding myself, like, this pain right now that you are experiencing can be perhaps, you can't even say, so the pain that you endure, no matter what type of pain it is, you could put it in writing, and yes, it's healing, right? But I find it for myself personally that those pain, especially that has until this day affects your health,
Mm,
you cannot ever heal from. I mean, I deal with the consequences of those physical abuse that I was experiencing in my marriage
mm.
affecting my daily life every
Oh,
single day. I'm in like um, lifetime prescription medication because I I had to endure these type of health damages through my abusive marriage. So
mm,
you cannot ever really heal from. But what really kept me going is the cause, is knowing that I was still fortunate. I lived in a country where you think you had freedom, but it's still at times you feel stuck.
mm.
So the cause kept me going. And
Wow.
I just needed to, just kind of be more strong and find that extra strength in me to just share my story. And this isn't just about me. I
Mm.
survived it, whether I'm dealing with the consequences today or yesterday or tomorrow. I somehow managed to survive, but there are others who are not able to. When I was writing my book, I did a lot of research. I discovered that over 33% of these young girls and women that are thrown into forced arranged marriages don't make it.
Mm.
They either lose their lives um, through their abusive marriages, or they end up suiciding. I mean,
Wow.
I, I attempt suicide many times.
Wow.
For some reason, I mean, God didn't want me back.
Wow.
It was just, I find, yes, I'm a mother of four amazing children and now two grandbabies. It's a blessing, but perhaps I think my main purpose in this world that God rejected to take me at times where I was so close to death was was to share my story and be the reason of, for others to be their voice. So,
Oh wow. That sounds like a lot, really. And the part that you had to mention you're contemplating suicide, yeah? Sounds like a I've been that one more reason why I was actually intrigued and taken aback and surprised at the same time because all of these things are what I watch in movies, yeah. I've never seen them happen in real life. I watch them in movies, Indian movies especially. But to be able to speak with somebody who have been through the experience, it's quite surprising and quite intriguing to know, yeah. And I would like you to talk more about the tradition of arranged marriages. Do you think it's still an issue in Germany today, in your country today? Do people still involved in it? Are there women's girls that are trapped in this, culture of a thing, etc.?
oh my gosh, Peter, absolutely. This what happened to me, it happens today. I mean, over 12 million girls under the age of 18 are married every single year without their consent. And
Wow.
this is not happening in Germany or in my country, Afghanistan, or in the US. It's happening all over the world. This is a global issue. I
Mm.
mean, imagine, to put this into perspective, it's about 33,000 young girls under the age of 18 are married every single day. Every
Wow.
single day. Right now, you and I are sitting here doing this interview. There are 33,000 young girls are being married under the age of 18 without their consent. Imagine that. It's
Wow.
fascinating how there's not enough awareness about this.
Mm.
So, and it's happening worldwide. And the
Wow.
tradition started, yes, and mainly in the Middle East and Asia. And these cultures continue to come into Western countries because
Wow.
parents, for whatever reason, my parents left Afghanistan because when the when the Russian invaded
Mm.
Afghanistan, we were forced to become immigrants in Germany. So my father or my parents end up implementing their culture and the tradition in Germany, in the Western country.
Mm.
I think, as a 16, as I was 9 years old when we moved to Germany, and growing up, my most important, childhood, I'm sorry, in Germany, you would
Yeah.
think that I had a sense of understanding that what are my rights, right?
Mm.
And what my parents are allowed to do to me or not.
Mm.
No, I didn't. And the reason is because of the tradition and cultures that even though you live in a Western country,
Mm.
um, parents keep their children pretty strict and isolated from the society of the Western, um, you know, Western life is because they're afraid. They're afraid that the children's are going to turn into understanding of what it's like to be free and learning the culture and, you know, sort of wanting to fight for your freedom like all the other Western countries raising their children by giving them that sense of freedom. You can
Mm.
do whatever you want. There's no question about that, right?
Yes.
So you're allowed to date, you're allowed to just know what you want, what you don't want, and
Yeah.
you know that, and they expect that from you until
Yeah.
someone is being in a relationship where they feel comfortable enough that okay, I see a future with this individual. Let me just have them to get to know my parents, introduce them to my family, and see
Yeah.
their opinion, and then perhaps make a lifetime commitment. Where in our culture that doesn't exist. So the parents
Wow.
feel that if we allow our children to be out, you know, whether it's after school hanging out with friends or having Western friends, they're fearful of us finding our freedom or speaking out for ourselves. And so they don't want that. And so I personally, my sister, we were extremely isolated from the outside world. We
Wow.
would go to school and we have to be on home on time at certain time. Otherwise, we will get punished.
Wow.
And the punishment wasn't just yelling and screaming, you know. It was what my dad spelled, like with the buckle part.
Wow.
So, the fear of pain, we made sure that we'll get home on time. So, and for those reasons, parents seem to just sort of implement those cultures and tradition, you
Mm.
know, bring them to the Western country. But overall, this has just been the culture and these type of practices and traditions been happening for centuries and centuries, and I could
Wow.
see why back in the day worked out, you know, but in today's society that's just wrong. I
Wow.
mean, it's just wrong. It robs us from education, it robs us from, you know,
Peace.
ourselves of who we are and what we're
Mm.
about. Or I mean, just yes, peace, absolutely.
Wow.
So
Identity.
it's just not fair. It's just not a fair world. And
Mm.
my ultimate goal is to just stop and educate individuals, especially the young generation, about these type of practices and the cultures and traditions, because everyone should have the right to choose their own, have the freedom to choose their own
Mm.
partners. Everybody should have. It's our body, it's our life, it's our future, right?
Absolutely.
And so, why should our parents have to choose the man? My father is not gonna share his body with this individual, or my mother. I am. It's important for me.
Mm.
Do I want this? This is huge, right? And so it's my life. It's my future. So yeah, it's something that it's we the whole world need to come together and educate one another about
Yeah.
this and bring in awareness to really save lives and stop these old centuries of traditions and cultures. You know, we live
Mm.
in a modern society today, and everyone should have the freedom of choosing their own partner.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I begin to understand. Yeah. It's actually even happened in Africa. Yeah, very much. Even from where I come from in Nigeria, as you're
It's huge.
speaking, I get to remember there's some young kids. They will just come. They can come with one old man that is rich or wealthy, and like, oh, this is your husband, and the girl just have nothing to say. You just have to comply. They will
Mhm.
make it feel as if you're gonna worry. It's gonna take care of you. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be happy. It's gonna be great. You know. Da, 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 da. I just realized it actually happens in Nigeria. Yeah,
Oh,
there's
it's
stories
huge.
around that too.
Huge in Africa, absolutely. As I mentioned to you earlier, when I was doing my research, I was already aware of what was going on worldwide with the culture and tradition and whatnot. But yes, Africa, it's actually a huge, a
It's a big thing. Yeah.
bigger percentage of this 12 million girls comes from Africa.
Mm.
Absolutely. Um, and it's just unfair. It's just unfair, you know. And we have one life to live.
Poor
We all,
kids, what can they do?
what can we do, right? And it's
Yeah.
just so unfair.
Mm.
I, and you end up having, you're a child yourself,
Yeah,
and
I
then you
mean, you know.
end up having a child of your own, a child raising a child. To begin with, imagine the health effects on that young body that end up, delivering baby after baby.
Mm,
And these husbands, these abusive husbands, are feeling a sense of ownership of their wives, of these young
mm.
boys and girls, and they feel like they can just do whatever they want to
And
do.
sometimes they don't even, sorry to cut you short, and sometimes they don't even view them as a human. They view them as a property.
Yes,
Those
exactly.
husbands view the wife as a property. It happens. Now I'm beginning to understand actually. Because
Yeah,
it happens very well. They just view it as a property. After hobby, there's this torture, there is this, abuse, a lot of it. Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, it's unimaginable of how these men treat their wives. I mean, I experienced it myself,
Mm,
but I also have seen it in my own eyes of that some had it worse. My sister, it's, for example, she was still in Germany. I went to visit her one year, and I was about 17, 18 years old.
mm,
And we were both the first year of marriage. Her husband, out of nowhere, he didn't like the food that she made. He literally threw the plate and said, start cussing at her, grabbed her by the hair in front of me. She's 11 months older than me. We
mm.
were both children. Put her head, grabbed her by her hair, dragged her into the bathroom, put her head in the toilet,
Wow.
smacking her head on the toilet and saying, eat my shit.
Wow.
Imagine I had to experience that. I thought my life was bad, and that's when I realized there are girls have it worse. And
Wow.
also, I mentioned earlier, 33% of these young girls either die with suicide, under suicide, or under their husband's abuse, and that's how they end up losing their lives, right? It's just, and then there's no questions asked by law. There's no question. If there is, well, she was
And
unfaithful. She was
and then
unfaithful.
lastly, even if the girl eventually come and speak to her own parent that she's been maltreated, it will shock you that this parent will just do as if they don't know you. They'll be like, "Oh no, he's your husband after all. Please, listen to him. Whatever he says, it's your home. You should know how to manage it." You feel like, Jesus, are you not my parent? Why are you treating me like this? I mean, why would you even arrange me with somebody like this? And I'm here telling you how he's treating me, and you cannot even do anything about it. So it's like they're selling you off to somebody. I'm like, okay, whatever comes out of it, please. It's none of our business. You're now a mother. You carry on with your life over there. It's a cup of tea.
Yeah, they're worried about what's going to happen with you financially. You know,
Yeah.
number one thing that they're worried about you, because they just felt like whatever it is, just deal with it. It's going to change. Just be
Mm,
patient. It's okay.
mm,
This time is going to pass. Just give him
mm.
more children. Give him more children, and he'll be more happier, and then he'll treat you better. No,
Imagine
that's
that.
false. That's false. And it's like, also it felt like when you do end up leaving or filing for divorce, it's an insult to the family's name.
Mm,
So they don't want to endure that. They do not. They would sacrifice their daughters' lives for their name. And people will talk,
mm.
and it's an insult to their name. So no, you
Well,
cannot be a divorcee. Absolutely not, because they cannot bear the insult of what people will say. Why do I have to live my life for people?
mm.
People are not here to save me.
People are not here. People are not the one passing through what you're passing through. People are
Yes,
even out there living their life, no matter what. Who cares about what people say?
Yes.
Sometimes it surprised me and it shocks me, and it's actually very. This is actually quite interesting because some people be like, yeah, what would people say? I say, who care about what people will say? Who are the people? Am I living my life to please people? I am me. I'm not a public personality. I'm not a public, sorry, like what do people say? Who cares about people? Who are the people?
Yes. Who
You
are
know,
the people?
it that statement sometimes always it annoys me. Like, what do people say if this happened? Who cares about people? Who always talk. They have their mouth, and it's meant for talking and eating. So
Hmm.
people are not the one passing through what I'm passing through. Hilariously, yeah. Sorry to cut you short. There is
No.
this woman in Nigeria that was living in an abusive relationship. So she's a gospel artist. Yeah, so she has been enduring the beats, the torture of the husband, even hilariously she has 4 kids, and the husband still keep maltreating her terribly. So
Mm.
eventually she doesn't want to divorce him because of what people would say that, oh, she divorced her wife and she calls herself a gospel artist. She divorced her husband and she calls herself a gospel artist. I was like, who cares about what people will say? It is your life. So eventually she died. And the news
See.
now came up. They now
Mm.
realize that it is the husband that been maltreating her. I feel
Hmm.
so sorry for her. Now she has
Hmm.
lost her life. She's no more on earth.
Mm.
And people still continue talking. So you should never live your life based on what people would say. It is
Yeah,
your life.
exactly. Absolutely. And that was my mentality is that this is my life. I don't care less about these people. Why would I care? These people don't care for me. If these people cared for me and they were there for me
Yeah.
and they wanted to save, I get it, but these people don't care less. If they want to talk, let them talk because I'm not going to sacrifice this one life that I have
Mm,
and take chances with this life because of these people. I
yeah.
could be dead, I could be alive. Don't matter to these people.
Mm,
I if they don't talk to me about me today, they're going to talk about somebody else tomorrow.
absolutely. I
So
mean,
I mean, till this day, I live my life the way I want to live my life. And my culture is um, not accepted to be, as we talked about divorce, and then moving on perhaps to marry, be in another relationship.
mm,
But for me, and because especially you got children, you got daughters, what are the daughters going to learn from you? People are going to talk. Eventually, your daughter's going to be, no, no, no. If my children watch me being suffering in my marriage with their father, my son's going to be end up being exactly like their father,
yeah.
and my daughter's going to be exactly like me.
Mm,
The son's gonna end up treating their wives the way their father treated me. My daughter's going to basically accept that life because their mom did. I'm not teaching them something valuable here. I'm teaching them, if I stay, is that you sacrifice your life for
yeah.
this marriage because of people.
Mm,
No, no, absolutely not. I tell my children, I have 4 amazing adult children. And of course, I want them to be, making the right decision to bring in, the right spouse. And then, of course, I want to give them my opinion. Of course, I want to, um, make sure as a parent that this individual, based on my wisdom, is that a right fit for him or for she. But that's all I could say.
mm,
If my sons and daughters are going to say, Mom, I love this individual, whether I have your approval or not,
mm,
I love him. I'm willing to take that risk. I
mm,
will have to support it. I'm
mm,
not going to force and mistreat my child because he or she feels that this is, their ultimate happiness. Well,
yeah.
let them. find it on their own then, if that's the case. All I could say is to give them my opinion and or my support, and then every mistake is a learning lesson in life. So
Mm.
if this is not approval by me, maybe it will be a life lesson learned for them that perhaps their next relationship would be wonderful.
Mm.
See? So let them be.
Yeah.
Let them be. And but for me, it was like, no, I'm not going to stay in this marriage because of my children. And my mother was living with me at a time when I had filed for divorce, and she was begging me, your children are young, and please, honey, don't do this. She was afraid financially that I wasn't going to make it. I said, Mom, just because I didn't have the opportunity to get myself educated, to,
Mm.
to support myself, I don't care. I'd rather be homeless than being in this relationship. I don't need this big fancy house and cars and this and that. I don't.
Mm.
All I want is a peaceful,
Peace of
happy,
mind.
happy life, a peace of mind.
Mm.
When I go to bed, I'm not fearful that if I refuse to be intimate with my husband, I'm going to be beaten. And I'm
Mm.
not sure whether am I going to survive that or not. Because
Mm.
as we talked about earlier, they husbands think that you are their property.
Mm.
You're
Yeah.
supposed to be doing everything they
They
want you
tell
to
you.
do
Yeah.
because they own you,
Yeah.
right? So
Mm.
I was like, mommy, that's not happening to me. I'm sorry. This is my life. I don't care how
Wow.
many children I have. I was 32. I
Wow.
was in, I had, I was 32. I had a 4-year-old, 6-year-old, 8-year-old, and a 13-year-old, and a
Wow.
mother that was living with me. And I was supporting my husband and I were supporting my family members of six party in Pakistan.
Mm.
And I was like, you know what, Mom? I am confident enough. Although I was robbed from my goals and my dreams of what I wanted to be in
Mm.
is my adult life, but I am till this day confident enough that I can, without any education, any type of degree, I can stand on my own feet
Yeah.
and support myself financially. I am so motivated and inspired today based on what I have experienced and what I'm going through that I feel like I could conquer the world.
Mm.
I have that confidence in me. So I don't care about, you know, being financially secured. I really don't care. If I'm
Mm.
going to be homeless for some time with my children, knowing that he had threatened me throughout our marriage, that whenever if I had ever decided to leave him, he will never support us financially. I already knew
Mm.
that he was going to do it, but I didn't care. So I don't care. I honestly don't care. I'd rather starve with my children, but that will motivate me even further to to overcome all of this financial burden because I had it in me. I knew that I would, no matter what I would want to do, that I'll be
Mm.
successful because of my past. I
Mm.
wanted to prove to people. I wanted to prove to my parents. I wanted to prove to my ex-husband that this was me had they let me live my life the way I wanted to live my life.
Mm.
I'm capable of doing so much on my own
Yeah.
without anyone's help. And I was a very, very smart, driven young girl. I wanted to be the first Afghan pilot, a female
Oh
pilot.
wow.
I that was really my ultimate goal. And when my first experience in an airplane, I was at age 9 from Afghanistan to Germany. I was fascinated with the airplane. The
Mm.
flight attendant liked us, my sister and I, so much that they took us in the front of the plane and showed us the cockpit. And we were like, oh my gosh, I was just like, I love to be in the air. Like, what do I want to do in my future, in my life? I'm going to be a pilot. So I get to travel all over the world. I get to meet different type of people.
Mm.
And at the young age, I just knew exactly what I wanted to be. I wanted to, then we moved to Germany and we weren't allowed to watch television except Saturday nights. There were black and white American movies where we were allowed to watch for a couple hours. And Sophia Loren and Elizabeth Taylor were one of my most favorite actors, and I
Mm,
was like, oh my gosh, I can beat them. I want to be for fun as a hobby, and these women, these ladies are so, they're big celebrities, and
mm,
it's in front of television and and in front of a camera. I loved camera. I just was always
wow,
obsessed with camera and posing, and it was just like my best friend. I was like, I really love the camera, and they had these tiny little waists. I had no idea they were wearing girdles. So I was like, and my waist is only 18 inch. I would wrap my arms around my waist, and I was like, tell my sister, I'm like, look, I could do what they're doing because I have their waist, I have their hair, and I
yeah,
love the camera, and so, and I also wanted to be the most successful girl because I grew up without my mother. I grew up with a stepmom.
wow,
I wanted my mom by me. I wanted my biological siblings, the three that were left behind by me. So
wow,
I had a lot of motivations of why I wanted to do all the things I wanted to do, and some of them were my dreams, my goals.
mm,
So and so for me, it's just I didn't care what my family thought. I didn't care for
mm,
my family name. My father arranged my marriage, and
mm,
not once had he called and said, "Daughter, how are you doing?" I filed for divorce. He never ever called, "Hey, I prevented you from going to school. How are you doing with your four children? How are you surviving financially?
mm,
Or I help you. Do you need shelter? Do you need food? How are you supporting your children? I know
mm,
that he's not paying you. No, never. And I know he was upset with me because I destroyed his name.
mm,
He didn't want to have anything to do with me. He could not take my life. From what I know is that I didn't grow up in Afghanistan, but from what I know, or in most other countries that forced arranged marriage is being practiced, um, when the daughters filed for divorce, one of the family members, male figure, whether it's a brother, father, uncle, whoever, end up killing that woman because they destroyed their name, right? So,
wow,
but my father couldn't do anything to me, first of all, because he was he had moved already outside of the United States, and second, he couldn't hurt me because then he'll go to jail. So, but he had no relationship with me, completely stopped
wow,
over a decade. And that was okay for me. I honestly was okay with that because that man had destroyed my life. And so I just honestly was cool with that. I didn't no longer cared for their name. I no
mm,
longer cared for anything. I just wanted to live the life that I want to live. And
wow,
I made it. I showed him who I really was, and I end up having a much more successful life than he had ever provided.
wow,
I became one of the most successful realtor in my community.
wow,
Everybody knew just by looking at my face.
wow,
So, I proved to them. I proved to them who I truly was.
mm,
And I think all these 12 million girls out there have so much potential. They could improve the world. They could make a difference in this world for better
mm,
compared to being isolated in their home and being abused every day of their lives. And some, like the lady you mentioned earlier, not able to survive. So
absolutely.
we need to talk and talk and talk and bring in more and more awareness about this cause, really.
Lots of girls with amazing potential that are stopped because of forced and arranged marriages. This is great, and I can go on and on and on and on. I need to say you've got an amazing roller coaster, a beautiful story in there that is quite compelling, and we can go on and on and on with it. But then, just for the sake of viewers who are watching, I would love to get a copy of the book. On what platform is it available on for purchase?
You could get hold of my book on worldwide Amazon as well as Barnes& and Noble. And I also have launched a nonprofit organization called, excuse me, I Want Freedom Charity.
Mm,
You could also get hold of the book through that as well. And we're accepting donations to be able to help some of these girls that are stuck in a cycle of forced arranged marriages,
mm,
where we're providing shelter as well as education, whether it's through um, online education or perhaps in person. And
mm,
I have to mention 100% of I Want Freedom profit of the book will go um, towards these cause of helping the girls that are stuck in this similar situation as I mentioned. So yeah,
mm. That's great. That's amazing. And I left a link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of Laila Kabir book directly on
yes,
Amazon, on Barnes& and Nobles, on our website, and also on other platform. I also left a link to our social media pages for possible followings. So thank you so much, Laila, for accepting the invitation to be
thank
featured on P English Literature. I must say this is more than awesome. Very great, quite emotional. We can go on and on, but just for the sake of the time, we have to stop it and just
I
have viewers who are interested to just go ahead and get a copy of the book directly on Amazon. So I need to say thank you once again for accepting the
thank you for
invitation,
having
for
me
coming
on.
on.
It was great having being on your show. Thank you.
Yeah, it's my utmost pleasure as well. This was quite emotional and heavy. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.